Hello, today our group is evaluating one of the most critical intersections of international law and global survival, the SOLAS Convention and its performance during the 2026 Strait of Hormuz situations in America-Iran war. Well, this is the table of contents. As we stand here in April 2026, the Strait is no longer just a shipping line, it is a dual blockade zone, with oil prices reaching $120 per barrel and nearly 20% of world's energy transit effectively frozen. Besides, the global supply chain is facing its greatest test since the 1970s. We must ask, is our maritime policy a rubber shell or it is an outdated relic of a simpler time? So we will provide a comprehensive evaluation of the SOLAS framework, offering a critical look at its failures, its essential strengths, and our roadmap for more resilient futures. To evaluate the current crisis, we must look at the legal backbone of maritime safety, SOLAS 1974, and specifically Chapter 11-2 titled Special Measures to Enhance Maritime Security. In international law, SOLAS is not just a suggestion, it's a mandatory convention. Under SOLAS Regulation 3, every contracting government is obligated to set security levels based on the perceived threat to their waters and vessels. As we speak in April 2026, the Strait of Hormuz has been designated as Security Level 3. This is the highest and the most restrictive state under SOLAS. At level 3, the commercial intent of a voyage becomes a secondary to the survival of the vessels. Every action from the frequency of deck patrols under Regulation 4 to the strict control of bridge access is detected by immediate threat protocols. While SOLAS was built to create a universal language for safety, the 2026 conflict is proving that this language is struggling to stay relevant against modern, state-sponsored aggressions. Every policy had its limits. Our research identifies three fundamental critiques of SOLAS in these situations. First and foremost, the sovereign state blind spots. SOLAS was designated in the shadow of 911, focusing almost exclusively on non-state actors like pirates, terrorists, and criminals. The policy assumes that the contracting government is a neutral protector of law. In the 2026 US-Iran conflicts, these assumptions collapse. When the threats come from a sovereign navy, the ISPS protocols becomes a legal ghost. The code provides no rules of how a civilian vessel should respond when a national military rather than a pirate skiff demands a boarding. This creates a dangerous compliance vacuum where the ship's security plans is legally and physically overmatched. The second critique is technological vulnerability. The current policy mandates the use of positioning, navigation, and timing (PNT) via satellite system like GPS or AIS. However, these systems are open access and unencrypted. In the current conflict, GPS spoofing has become a primary weapon of hybrid warfare. Hostile actors transmit a slightly stronger fax signals that tricks a ship's bridge into believing it is safe international waters when it is actually being lured into territorial waters for seizure. SOLAS lacks of mandatory digital integrity requirement, meaning ships are legally following a policy that actually makes them more vulnerable to electric hijacking. Then the third critique is the safety versus security paradox. SOLAS Regulations 19 requires ships to keep their automatic identification system on at all times to prevent collisions. However, in a war zone, broadcasting your AIS data is essentially giving your GPS coordinates to hostile drones operators and missiles batteries. The policy does not provide a clear legal trigger for when a master can turn off their AIS for security without being penalized for safety violations. This leaves captains in a lose-lose situations. There are several advantages of these policies. First and foremost, the uniformity of international response. The greatest strength of SOLAS is that it creates a universal language for maritime safety. Because nearly every nation is a signatory, for example, like a ship from Malaysia and a port in Dubai use the same security levels. This standardization allows the naval coalition force to coordinate with commercial fleets seamlessly. Without SOLAS, every nation would have its own conflicting rules, leading to a total logistical paralysis during a regional war. Second, the advantages is the regulations act master overriding authority. In a high-pressure war zone, ship owners or charterers might pressure a captain to take risks like sailing into a blockade to avoid a financial penalties. SOLAS Regulation Act provides a powerful legal shield by explicitly stating that the master has the overriding authority to make decisions regarding the safety and security of the ships. This ensures that the professional judgment of a seafarer, not the profit-driven goals of the office, it detects the movement of the vessels in a crisis. The third advantage is the due diligence foundations for insurance. Maritime trade is impossible without insurance. For a war risk policy to remain valid, the ship must prove it has followed all international safety laws. The ISPS audit trail, like security logs, drills, and records, provides the evidence needed for insurance to cover vessels. Without the SOLAS framework, the Strait of Hormuz would be uninsurable, effectively stopping the flow of 20% of global oil overnight.
Now I will talk about the disadvantage. First is the war risk premium spiral when the strait is declared a security level 3 zone. Insurance underwriter move from annual rate to mortgage-based premium. In April 2026, this rate has spiked to as high as 1% of the vessel total value. For a modern VLCC, which is very large crude carrier, worth $150 million, a single transit now costs an additional $1.5 million in insurance alone. This retard is a massive economic burden that drives up global energy costs and triggers domestic inflation. Then, force majeure and contractual chaos. The instability in Strait lead to frequent force majeure declarations. These legal causes allow companies to cancel contracts because of unforeseeable circumstances like a blockade. This causes a shadow effect in the supply chain, which is a ship stuck in the strait means a manufacturing plant in Singapore or Malaysia run out of a part, leading to production shutdown and billions in lost GDP. Lastly is the environmental bypass cost. To avoid the $1.5 million insurance premium, many ships take the long way around the Cape of Good Hope. While this is safer, it adds 10 to 14 days to the journey. This bypass significantly increases fuel consumption, burning thousands of tons of extra bunker fuel, which leads to a massive surge in carbon emissions. This creates a sustainability conflict where geopolitical security needs are directly harming global climate goals. Now I will talk about the areas of improvement. First is the mandatory e-rolls. The mandatory e-rolls should be introduced as a mandatory backup navigation system. Unlike GPS, which is satellite-based and easily jammed, e-rolls is a land-based, high-power signal that is nearly impossible to spoof. Requiring this as a secondary PNT will ensure that even during electronic warfare, a ship bridge remains a trusted zone. Then is the cybersecurity as a safety requirement. Currently, cybersecurity is treated as a recommendation, not a hard requirement. We propose that cyber harness firewall will, for breach system be made a mandatory part of a safety management system. This would require all new ships to have a analog overrides and air gaps navigation computers to prevent remote hijacking by hostile stage. Lastly is the encrypted AIS for high-risk zone. The IMO should develop an encrypted AIS protocol in high-risk zone like Hormuz Ships should be able to broadcast their data on a secure channel visible only to verified port authorities and UN monitor naval forces. This would allow for safe traffic management without making the ship a visible target for hostile dawn strike. Then I will proceed to the suggestions for sustainability betterments. First is the Blue Corridor Neutrality Protocol. We suggest a Blue Corridor for peace, a UN monitor digital fence transit lane. By international treaty, any ship within this corridor will be legally exempt from military seizures or right of visit. To, to incentivize this, the insurers could offer peace premium in lower rates for ships that stay between these neutral, verified ranges and ensuring the sustainable flow of food and energy. Then, a social sustainability seafarer fund. Sustainability is not just about the oceans, it's about the people. There are 20,000 mariners currently trapped in the Gulf Level 3 zone. We propose a mandatory global seafarer welfare fund financed by a 0.01% tax on world risk insurance profit. This fund would provide mandatory combat hazard pay and mental health support for crews facing the trauma of blockade and potential seizures. Lastly is the geopolitical decoupling via green energy. The ultimate betterment is reducing the strategic importance of the strike itself by accelerating the transitions to green hydrogen and ammonia, which can produce regionally in many countries. We reduce the global reliance on a single oil choke point. True maritime sustainability means moving away from a strategic resources economy that rewards conflict towards a renewable resources economy that promotes regional stability. To conclude, the 2026 Hormuz crisis has proven that SOLAS is an important self, but it is an aging one. It was built for a different kinds of world. For a maritime sector to remain sustainable and safe, we must evaluate our policies to handle digital threat and state-level aggressions. Maritime security is no longer just about rock and gas. It's about cyber resilience and financial stability. That's all for our presentation. Thank you.